All right, so let's look at objects again. So now we're actually going to, by looking at objects, make some objects. So we have from die, import die here. So we're not importing random anymore. And what we're going to do is we're going to, from die, and notice the difference between this, the small capital and the big capital. If we look at die, now we have a class here, and this is where we're creating objects, or at least the blueprint for an object. And in the class, we're importing random from a random integer from random. And so here we have a die, and if you see, we have die1 dot roll. So what that means is we have a class called die. We're making an instance of that class called die1, and we're using a method, the roll method, to get a value back from, to set a value in that, to get a value back from that object. And so the roll method will return a value, which in this case is 1 to 6. So if we run this, we get, again, 10 numbers from 1 to 6. Let's go look at the object. If you look at the object here, or the class, because we're creating an object from the class, we have the die class. And there are two methods inside the die class. This first one, the init method, and you see it's underline, underline, init, underline, underline. You're going to put spaces in, you're going to only do one underline, and it's not going to work. So make sure it's underline, underline, init. This is what sets up the class. This piece of code, whenever you create an instance of the class, this code executes. And what it does is it has the number of sides equal to 6. Think of this just like a regular function. So if you sent a value to die, that would be the number of sides of the dice. If you don't send a value, it's going to make a 6-sided die. And it has self.num sides is equal to num sides. And this, the self, is what allows the values to exist in the object. And so they can be used, so you bring in the self values and allows them to be used in other methods. So you're always going to have your init where you have self, comma, and then whatever values you would normally send, and then setting the values here. All your methods or methods are going to have the same self come in, so you can have the properties. So you can see we have a die class that has the init method and the roll method, and it has number of sides as a property. And when we call the roll method, we take a number between 1 and the number of sides, which we get by self.number of sides. So inside the method, to get a property, it's self period, the property name. And then we're going to do a random number, and that's what we're going to return. So you can see when we do roll is equal to die1.roll, we're running this method of this class, which returns a value between 1 and the number of sides, which is a property of the die class. Sometimes this is a bit confusing because we have a new set of vocabulary to work with, but you'll pick it up. It's not that difficult. All right, so let's look at dice example 5 now. Again, same thing. We're bringing the exact same die in that we were working on. So we have a die here. But now we're making two instances. We're making a 6-sided instance and a 20-sided instance. So die 1, if you did ask what type it was, it would be a type of die. It would not be an integer or a floating point. The data type is an object, and the object is a die object. The capital DIE, which is a singular dice. And then for we're going to do a for loop, and the local variable, the variable roll and roll 2 are being set to the being the roll property, running the roll method for the first die and the roll property for the second die, and then we print the two values. So we're going to run this, and we get 2 random dice. So now we're rolling 2 dice. And you can see when we roll them, we get different values. Finally, we got a different one. I was getting too many ones right here. And if we look, it's the exact same. Oh, I deleted it. Oh, well. If we look at die 6, you can see I'm now going to die 2 and not die 1. So die 2, I've added some other methods to the class. So we still have the init class, we still have the roll, but now I have 2 simple methods. One returns the number of sides. So if you're not sure what the object, whether it's a 6-sided die or the 20-sided die, you can ask it. You can say, how many sides do you have? And it will tell you how many sides you have. You can also ask it, what face is up? Because the die has, if it's lying on something, it has some die number facing up. And so that's not you don't just want to just roll it every time. You might want to refer to it. Roll it once and refer to that value 2 or 3 times. So you have a method that will give you what face is facing up or the number of the die. We have set a property called color. And since I don't have any color methods, we aren't using that property yet, but we have a property that we've set to red. So if we go back here, we now have, we go to die 5, we have the 6-sided, the 20-sided, and we roll those, and sure enough, they keep rolling. If we look at number 6, we create a 6-sided die because there's nothing in there, and now we can roll those, and we can just roll the die, and it prints the result, and we can print the die face. Notice that we're not setting it equal to anything. There's no variable here that holds the value for the die. The object itself, it has a property of its value or what face is up. So we don't need to keep track of a variable. And this is why the people talk about object-oriented language being easier to read and more concise. So you don't need to keep track of what variable is what. The object itself keeps track of, I'm an object, I'm a die, I know what side is up, I know what color I am. So you can ask the object the information. And we'll stop here for now.